Alright, everybody, welcome back to another This Week at Bungie, aka TWAB, aka Where's TWAB? And it's number 13, November 18th, and we got a juicy one. Potentially the biggest TWAB I've ever seen.
Yeah, I
What
think
about
it's the
you,
biggest
Brother
one in
Jamal?
I think it is the biggest one in the history of all the TWABs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's bigger than even like some of the expansion TWABs. Like, I don't even know how that even happens.
Yeah, so we got a lot to talk about. A lot of ability changes, a lot of sandbox changes. So let's just dive right in. They said first, before they go into the whole sandbox thing, they would just like to remind everybody that the 30th anniversary is out on December 7th, which is just a few weeks away. In game, there will be plenty to do between seasonal challenges, Trials of Osiris, the occasional Iron Banner, vendor reputation, god roll hunting, and more. Next Thursday is Thanksgiving here in the States, so many of them will be taking time to rest up and spend time with the family, as they should. And as such, to expect a very light TWAB next week. Well, I hope so, because we got a big one. So there's going to be
Canada
buffs.
for
There's going to be nerfs.
life. Sorry.
These are tuning levers that allow recently unlocked back-end changes, and there are clear separations between PvE and PvP, which I very much like, because I hate when something has to get toggled because of one thing and it affects both. So I'm very glad that they've managed to find a way to split them. They say here, Kevin Yanes is here, and he is here to give us a quick intro before he hands it off to Eric Smith and Mike Humboldt. He gave a brief roadmap leading towards the 30th anniversary in the Witch Queen before. The roadmap will likely not happen for some time, as this team has heads on with a few more initiatives. One of the initiatives you're going to be hearing about today is an adjustment to the ability regeneration as a whole, and a refocusing of Crucible gameplay on weapons. The team has touched almost every piece of ability content with this release, and they're fairly convinced that this will be the biggest balance patch ever. Earlier this year, they heard overwhelming feedback with the Crucible and has been largely dominated by ability usage. Players felt that they were firing off way too quickly and with too much potency, and a little bit too less investment. At the core of Destiny's game is about space magic. However, the adjustments to our abilities must be made with care, and they believe that changes they've made will keep the heart of what makes Destiny abilities fun and intact, while shaving down some of the excess cases that they've seen out there. They feel it's important to reinforce here that part of Destiny's strength is that it's a live game and that they're able to iterate and improve the game as time goes on. This means that they're building a new foundational system like the one you'll read about today. With that in mind, they're giving themselves more balancing knobs to tune than they've ever had before, so they hope that you'll see why that's important as we continue to read on here. They hope that the 30th anniversary shakes up the sandbox in a new way that gets us excited for even more to come with the Witch Queen. The team will likely go heads down for a bit, as they still have Solar and Arc to 3.0ify, along with insanely cool initiatives. That line right there has me intrigued. The team takes player feedback very seriously, and as Destiny players themselves, they have an intrinsic fire to keep improving the games for everyone. They hope that we like what we see, and they're sending over to Eric Smith to talk about the changes coming up in the new 30th anniversary patch, which will arrive on December 7th. So they're changing the way ability cooldown works. Up until now, cooldowns across the individual types, grenade, melee, class, super, have generally been identical between all abilities of the same type. For example, all the grenades in today's Destiny 2 share the exact same cooldown time, with the exception of Stasis Grenades. This shared cooldown means that all grenades need to have roughly the same power output because they have the same time cost. For the 30th anniversary, they've made changes that allow them to tune the cooldown of each ability separately, and that gives them a new knob to turn when balancing abilities that are too powerful or not powerful enough. Now that they have that new system in place, we've done a cooldown tuning with all of the subclass abilities in the game, tuning each ability's cooldown time against its power output. They've also tuned ability outputs and assigned cooldown times accordingly, and the best example of this would be the Flux Grenade. With the Flux Grenade, they've increased the base cooldown from 82 seconds to 182 seconds. That is quite a difference. They increased the attached detonation damage from 150 to 250, so it will do one-shot kill in PvP. Increased damage versus PvE combatants by 15% on top of the base damage increase, so that's fantastic. Removed projectile tracking, added a small amount of aim assist, increased the throw speed by 117%, and it now sticks to all surfaces. So as you can see, the Flux Grenade now has a very long cooldown, but it has a one-shot capability in PvP if you manage to land the hit. It's also harder. It also hits harder in PvE, and it's as a reminder, the Flux Grenade is currently only available to Arc Strider hunters. That's pretty impressive for me. Like, I don't really use this grenade too much, but I'm definitely going to try it out now. I'm mainly a PvE guy, so having the Arc class in some of the PvE content is what I use quite a bit. So this sounds like it could be a really good thing, especially if we get like something similar to like Overload grenades or something on the Arc for potentially next season or something, you know?
Only because all these hunters have just been playing Stasis for like the past, I don't know, forever. I don't even know what Flux Grenades look like anymore. So
Yes.
I've just been Shatter Dived or Frozen or Shatter Dived.
Yeah. So we'll probably be seeing quite a bit more of it. But I don't think it's going to be too much more. Like, that is a severe cooldown, so you really do need to hit your shots with it. So like, I feel like it might be. It feels like it's a pretty good balance. Like, because it severely hurts you if you do miss. Like 182 seconds is pretty long in a PvP match that things happen every second, right?
I mean, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
They have another example in the opposite direction with the Firebolt grenade. They reduce the base cooldown from 82 seconds to 64 seconds, reduce damage per bolt from 90 to 65, and they increase the damage in PvE by combatants by 15% as well. The Firebolt grenade has a low cooldown time, especially at a tier 10 discipline, but it also has low damage output. These kinds of varied cooldowns and outputs should make the game feel a bit more dynamic and give a bit more depth to build crafting. To make build crafting around cooldowns easier, you'll now be able to see the base cooldown time of your abilities when selecting them on the subclass screen. On the character screen, you'll see the actual cooldown time of your abilities as they're affected by your equipped ability and armor stats. So that's cool. You can take a look just going into the subclass itself. It'll tell you the base time regardless of what you're wearing, and then when you check it on your actual character, it'll tell you based off of what you're wearing what it's currently at. And so that's a cool little way of doing it, making it a bit easier. They want to note that the base cooldown time is actually tier 3 of the relevant armor stat, strength, discipline, etc. This is because the system technically penalizes you for tanking your stats below a tier 3, in which case your cooldown would be longer than the base, and they are looking to update this to be more intuitive in the future. Cooldown times for class abilities are not currently displayed due to a technical issue, and they plan on fixing that with a future release.
Okay.
They've been calling this the... So did you want to add anything in there?
No, I'm good. I'm just surprised how fast you're rolling through this so far. I'm very impressed.
There's a lot to go through, so I'm trying to keep some pace here.
Yeah, man, Blitzkrieg it. I'm all for it.
They've been calling this the variable ability cooldown system, and they think it's the beginning of a change for Destiny 2 Sandbox. It's a foundational change in preparation to move the light subclasses over to the 3.0 system that Stasis is currently using. For the 30th anniversary, they're using it to change the cooldown of nearly every ability in the game. One of their designs and goals this year was to reduce the amount of ability spam in Crucible and put the focus back on gunplay. To this end, they've made ability cooldown times longer on average than they were before, and they don't want the PvE experience to suffer for the sake of the PvP balance though, so they've tried to compensate where possible. For example, we've increased all grenade damage versus PvE combatants by 15% or more. This should make grenades feel a bit more powerful at the moment than they do in today's game. The melee ability cooldowns haven't been increased in quite as much as the grenade cooldowns, and some of the less aggressive melee attacks have a lower cooldown than before. Class ability cooldowns have also generally increased, but the changes vary depending on which ability is equipped. So I'm guessing that depends on like which barricade you're using or what have you, which rift potentially.
Yeah.
They're excited to see how the changes feel once they've hit the game. They'll be monitoring it, and now they're passing it off to Mike Humboldt to talk about super changes. Since Destiny's launch in 2014, super energy gain has been almost entirely passive. Your intellect stat dictates how quickly your super regenerates, with few other elements like orbs of power, armor and weapon perks, and defeating targets at active sources. This system worked well for a long time, but has the issue that have grown more obvious as the game has evolved in overall player skill, especially skill in evaluating how to play around the character build. It has increased. For example, in high-stakes game modes like Trials of Osiris or Survival, where each life is precious, passive play becomes more common as players sit back and wait for their supers to close out a tied game. In general, we want the most efficient way to gain super energy to be actively engaging in combat. That doesn't mean you win every fight, but we want you to try. I do kind of like where that's going.
I agree.
To get us closer to the goal that they're making and to the big change of the system, super regeneration will still have a passive component scaled by your intellect stat, but at a significantly reduced rate. On top of your passive regeneration, you will also gain super energy by dealing and taking to or from opponents. There's a few key goals to go over in this new system. In PvE, super uptime should be relatively unchanged from the live game, if not slightly higher. They're pretty happy with the frequency of supers in most PvE content, and they don't want to make changes on that right now. Completely agree. Aside from like them changing the how quickly you regenerate the super energy, like when you're using the Phoenix Protocol chest, I believe, on the Warlock when you cast your Ultimate Rift, it's you only get, regardless of what, you get 50% back, and it's the same across the board for all three.
All of those regeneration ones, yeah.
It's for some situations, it's like getting that super back really quickly in the harder nightfalls is quite key. So only getting 50% back can hurt sometimes, but we'll see if that's been changed here later on, because I know some of the supers and everything have all been changed into different categories now. They said everybody should get at least one super in a 6v6 match that goes to the score or time limit as long as they engage in regular combat. Expression of power through using your awesome space magic is a core part of what makes Destiny special, and they're not looking to change that. And they think with the cadence of supers in a 6v6 mode is slightly too high, but they don't want to expect a dramatic change in the super uptime for most players in playlists like Control or Iron Banner as a result of these changes. So only getting one or so in a 6v6 match, I feel like that's fine. I don't know if you necessarily need more than one, and if you're like severely whooping people and have a high intellect stat build anyways, you'll probably get more than one regardless.
I mean, supers have always caused this issue where it's like, especially in Iron Banner, it creates this massive snowball effect. So I think having one super is definitely the way to go here, only because, again, the frequency of supers that you get hit with, like sometimes you'll spawn and dude would still, I don't know, you feel like you're getting supered by the same guy like over and over and over again.
Of course, yeah, I've had that happen. I've been spawn killed by the person that killed me with the same super. Absolutely,
So
depending on the map.
I definitely
Generally
feel
speaking,
like
it was a
it's gonna
Titan
slow it
with the
down.
arc and the dashing.
Yeah, that.
But
But again, it's
also
just one of
the
those things where like the supers are creating this massive issue where it's like, again, it either slows the game down in 3v3 content, or it ends up creating a snowball effect in 6v6s.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And that's exactly it. Like, when somebody gets one off, and if they're really good with it, it could just be the beginning of the end for the team. So
Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
moving on, they say here supers should feel less frequent in 3v3 modes than in the live game, where 2 supers per match is a fairly regular occurrence. These modes are about expression of player skill, and they want it to be primarily about the team coordination, positioning, and intelligent use of your abilities, and first and foremost, the gunplay. While there's absolutely skill in outmaneuvering active supers or playing around super uptime, supers in general are purposely designed to be accessible power fantasies for all players, and that inherently creates more asymmetry than needed, or than they need to account for in competitive play. So yeah, if I don't think they're saying that 2 supers is going to be a fairly regular occurrence. I think they're saying that it's been a fairly regular occurrence, so there's going to be less frequent now in a 3v3 match, which I agree.
I completely
2
agree
supers in a
with.
3v3 match is definitely too much.
It's
So,
way too much. It
it's
creates all
really
this
the trials.
camping and yeah, I'm sure we don't even need to go into that.
No. So, primary weapon play should have a noticeable benefit in super energy regeneration. With this new system, they're scaling energy gains up and down granularly based on the source of the damage, both outgoing and incoming. Outgoing primary damage has a significantly higher return of super energy damage per point than any other type of damage. Okay, so try to make your primary weapons a little bit more useful. I'm all for it. The different supers should come online at different times in a given match, and your super of choice should have an impact on how quickly it regenerates. To reiterate what they mentioned above, they've always lived in a world where nearly every super in the game shares the same cooldown, regardless of the efficiency in the game mode. Now that they have made the foundational change to differentiate cooldowns between individual abilities, they want to address the super o'clock issue in Crucible, where 3
That's
minutes into a
hilarious.
match, 12 supers are simultaneously popped and chaos ensues. We also want to open up build crafting space where your super cooldown time is an important element in decision making beyond how high you want to make your intellect stat to be. To that end, they've separated supers into cooldown tiers that affect both passive regeneration rate as well as the damage based regeneration rate. This tiering was primarily influenced by each super's kill potential, where most of the one-off supers are unlikely to wipe a team or a room of combatants, but a long-lasting roaming super can and should have a trade-off as a result. They've also taken into account the general potency of the subclass kits where possible. For example, later on they'll be discussing Shadow Dive and changes that they're making which impact how effective the Revenant Hunter is in the neutral game, causing us to shift some of that potency to the super's uptime as a result. It's also important to stress that this is the first iteration of this system, when any given super will fall into the recharge rate tiers will change over time as they continue to tune it. And for now, these are the super regeneration tiers that they are launching with on December 7th. So, starting with tier 5 at the fastest regeneration time, we have the Well of Radiance. That's it. Tier 4, second fastest, the Blade Barrage and Silence and Squall. That's interesting. I know they said a few lines ago that they have to increase the uptime of the super. I'm guessing because they're nerfing some shatter diving and some other things later with the Revenant Hunter. So, but they still didn't want to make it feel underwhelming. So I guess they had to crank the Silence Squall up a smidgen. The Silence Squall does feel a little underwhelming. I feel like a lot of people are breaking out of it a little bit too quickly. But we'll see how this goes. The Blade Barrage I barely ever see, anyways. So, but it does have that whole squad kill potential if everybody's lined up. But they have to be in one spot. It's just a one and done, right?
Yeah, agreed.
Tier 3, we have the Shadow Shot, the Burning Maul,
Wow.
the Arc Staff, the Nova Bomb, and the Thunder Crash. Shadow Shot sounds about right. Burning Maul, your
Burning Maul
Titan. Talk to
needed
me.
it. It needed a lot of help. I mean, no one uses it outside of PvE content, and even in certain instances, no one uses it in PvE content. Only when
Is
it's
that Middle Tree Solar?
Yeah, that's Middle Tree Solar. So
Big
it's only
Hammer
like
Boy.
when you
Okay.
have like that glitch going on, you know, and you maximize the amount of damage that you're dishing out. Other than that, I don't see anybody use Burning Maul. So I feel like this will help push it over some of the arc classes as we go down this list. But I mean, Thunder Crash is still there. So
At tier 3, it is a one and done. So like I'll give them that. It needs to
but
have
it
some
does
upgrade.
it does have a lot of potential to wipe teams. I mean, I've done it before with Thunder Crash, but
Mhm.
it also operates as a shutdown super. So again,
Yes.
it's a very potent super. It's a very easy one to land and punish other players for using their supers against it. So I agree with it being tier 3, only because it is a one and done and it's easy to screw it up. So
Mhm. The Arc Staff at tier 3. I'll agree with it only for the fact that unless you're wearing the Radon Flux chest piece, it's very, very short. It doesn't. You get it for maybe like 10 seconds or so, or it feels like 10 seconds, if that. Like it doesn't last very long, not nearly as long as like a Spectral Blades or the Fist of Havoc or something like that. So I don't mind that being a tier 3. If they up the time that it's up the upkeep time of it, then maybe tier 2, depending on how long you can run around with it. But for now, I think that's okay. The Shadow Shot, one is either a one and done, or the other one you get a few shots, but you have to hit them directly with it, and the range on them, the tether, is not very long. So I'm okay with that being a tier 3. Tier 2, Golden Gun, Chaos Reach, Nova Warp, Storm Trance, Daybreak, Sentinel Shield.
So they should just say Warlock, and then Golden Gun and Sentinel Shield.
Yeah. Warlock. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, Golden Gun.
They are the strongest
as well.
supers in the game as far as Warlocks are concerned. Golden Gun, I don't know. I feel like Golden Gun doesn't get the respect it deserves sometimes. Like in terms of just like how good it really is. I feel like people kind of just sneeze at it because of all the other supers that the hunters have. So the roaming one with the Shadow Blades, the tether, and of course the Canadian Storm. I mean,
Silence and Squall.
Silence and Squall. I like the name left me, but
Canadian Storm. That is.
But the Golden Gun, I feel like it's definitely effective. It can shut down supers. It can shut down most stasis supers, all roaming supers for that matter. So I agree that it's a tier 2 super to some extent. I still feel like maybe it should be up in tier 3, only because I don't know. You know what, man? Yeah, I'll keep it at tier 2. I'll keep it at tier 2 just to see what it looks like, because I just don't want it to fall to the wayside. That's my only issue with it.
I completely agree. I feel like I want to test it and see how it is. I feel it could potentially go to tier 3 because it is still like the one and done. Yeah, you can get across the map, but if you're doing the one, you're only getting the 3 shots, and
you still have to hit headshots.
Shot with the 3, you can get away with the body shot and still get the 1.
Okay.
But with the bottom tree 6-shotter, it does not one tap body shot. You have to get the headshot off. So like there is a bit more accuracy and skill involved with that one. With the trade off. So that's why I feel like maybe tier 3 it could get pushed to. But it is a very strong super, and it lasts decently long too. So Chaos Reach, it's powerful. You can also turn it off. They seem to get it back pretty quick, although they did change those exotic boots. So,
and honestly, I believe it belongs in tier 1, in my opinion. Chaos Reach.
Yeah. I feel like that was also because of how quickly the people were getting it back though with the boots. Maybe with was it not the Transversive Steps, but it was the other ones. Geomag Stabilizers. Yes, thank you. But yeah, it's very powerful, and the thing clips through everything. So like they still haven't been able to fix the clipping. It'll get you through a wall. It's crazy. The Nova Warp, interesting. I don't really see it used too much. Like they did just change it, and it's to be a bit more powerful, and it does last quite a while. So like that, I guess I can see why it's a tier 2 because it does last a decent amount of time, but it's very all up in your face. Not as
I would still put that at tier 3 with Burning Maul and Arc Staff. I think that makes more sense to me. I think Nova Bomb should be tier 2 because Nova Bomb, at least like its effectiveness is very high, and it's a good counter to roaming supers or supers in general, and it can wipe out entire teams depending on which one you use. Like the little Nova Bombs that come out of the big one, like I still find Nova Bomb is super effective and really easy to use in certain instances where Nova Warp, it does take a little bit of map knowledge and knowing where your enemy is at and how to set this up properly. Like, yeah, you can run around aimlessly and just blow yourself up against everybody, but 9 times out of 10, especially if you're playing players who know how to handle that, they'll shut you right down. So I just feel like Nova Warp needs a little bit more love than what it's been getting recently, because even after the buffs, I still don't see it being one of those
No, I don't
supers
either.
where, oh, he's gonna Nova Warp. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, in
Yeah.
all honesty, like, even if when we play trials and as soon as we know someone's gonna do a roaming super of some kind, we just post up and waste him. So I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't find Nova Warp to be all that scary. So I think it should be tier 3.
Yeah, I can see the argument for that, for sure. Storm Trance. Yeah,
where it
I'll keep
belongs.
it tier 2. Yep.
Yeah,
Daybreak, same
right
thing.
where it belongs.
And Sentinel Shield, I say same
Not
thing.
where it belongs. No, I don't think so. Because the problem
No?
with Sentinel Shield, in all honesty, like the roaming super, its hit registration is pretty trash, and in a lot of instances, it's not even a good super to use in anything outside of PVE content, as far as PvP is concerned. Because this is what the cooldowns are mainly for.
Mm-hmm.
In PvP, like, yeah, Sentinel Shield is it's okay as a roaming super, but I mean, like, compared to everything else that's higher in this list, like, I would still even sometimes use Burning Maul over Sentinel Shield. What makes Sentinel Shield so good in terms of the class is everything else that surrounds it. The constant healing, the over shields, it pairs with some of your exotics really well. That's what makes it effective. But the super itself, I think, is trash. And I'd rather just use the bubble more times than not in PvP. Which, I mean, Well of Radiance is all the way up there, but I get it. You can't separate Sentinel Shield right now with the bubble. That's why the bubble
Yeah.
and Sentinel Shield is stuck where it's at in tier 2. So,
Yeah.
again, another super that, in my honest opinion, tier 3. It's not shutting any supers down. It's not doing anything ridiculously crazy in terms of the PvP meta. I just keep it neutral and leave it where it's at.
Unless you're a master of disc throwing. And
Yeah,
you're probably not
I
killing
guess.
the whole team, potentially.
But I
If the
don't see
team
you
happens to
wiping
be in
the
a
whole team,
hallway
man.
and it bounces and it goes through them, you can get lucky. You can get a cheeky multi-kill, but, like, that doesn't happen often.
Yeah,
So.
I don't see it at a high frequency like that.
No. Tier 1.
This
Slowest
hurts my
regeneration.
soul. I just read it. This hurts my soul.
Spectral Blades. I agree. Straight off the bat, I agree. Because it lasts ridiculously long and it one taps. So, and you can go invisible and run around. It's all around is a very powerful one. While people might not feel like it is, it's just when you get good with it, it is. Fist of Havoc. For me, I agree. I see this thing way too much. This is the thing that kills me. Goes across the map, kills me again as soon as I spawn. So I'm completely fine with this slow thing because it lasts so long. It has extreme killing potential.
Justin, you're hurting my feelings. It needs to be
I'm
tier
sorry,
5.
but it's true.
Oh,
It
my
does not
heart.
need to be tier 5. You are kidding yourself. You are kidding yourself, sir. Hammer of Soul.
Oh,
I don't know about that one.
Jesus. My heart.
That
Yeah,
one
Hammer of
could be a
Soul
questionable
is-
tier 2.
Bottom
I'm not sure.
bottom tree Hammer of Soul Rexall. No, it's really good.
Yeah?
It's probably the second best Titan Slim class in the game.
I don't ever use it, so I'll take your word on that one.
Yeah, it's either you play Fist of Havoc or you play Hammer of Soul. It's one or the other,
Sure.
in all honesty.
Gotcha. Glacial Quake. I'd say yes to this before the nerf, but after the nerf,
I think it's a tier 2, tier 3.
yeah, I don't think it needs to be tier 1 after the nerf.
Yeah, like that super gets poo-pooed on. Like I don't see
Yeah.
why it needs to be so slow.
Yeah. And then Winter's Wrath, yeah, I'm tired of getting
Definitely.
frozen by the little blips.
Yeah, it
and
needs to be tier 0, non-existent.
Yeah.
Get
Yeah,
it out of
take
the
it out.
game. Get it out
Take
of
it
here.
away. Beyond Light's leaving with Game Pass, and the
Just
Winter's
get it
Wrath
outta
with
here.
it for most people.
Get it up out of here, man.
Yeah. As we move on here, they say Kevin and Eric mentioned earlier that this sets up for the future as they move towards the Subclass 3.0 system. As an example, for the 30th anniversary, things like the Deadfall and Mobius Quiver variants of the Shadow Shot will share the same cooldown tier, but with the Void 3.0 launch in February, they could exist in different tiers based on their potency. By that same token, Word of Dawn, which is currently tied to the Sentinel Shield cooldown, will be moved into the Tier 5 group as a standalone super with Void 3.0. There it is. There it is.
Okay. I was just saying it, so there you go.
You literally just saying tier 5, but you can't separate it, and they're just like,
Yeah,
we're separating
we're
it
gonna
with the
separate
Void
it.
3.0. Boom.
So there
I
you
like
go.
it.
We get Bubble tier 5. Honestly, I think that's going to be my main subclass. If Bubble's going to be tier 5.
I mean, if the well is there, the bubble has to be there. It's only
Yeah.
they're
And I mean, Weapons of
they go
Light
hand in hand.
and yeah, that's what I'm saying. Especially if you do like Saint Helm of Saint 14, then you know like you can start walking around with an overshield and Weapons of Light as well. Like it's kind of strong. So I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
I might even, because Fist of Havoc is being nerfed so badly, I might even just stick with the Bubble Shield. We'll see.
I'm very interested for this Void 3.0. I'm excited for it. So
Yeah,
I'm interested
honestly,
to see
it's
if
going
we
to
have
be
to.
my main subclass. So
Yeah, I'm wondering about what you were saying in a previous TWAB about how are we going to have to find all the fragments and everything again and build up
oh Jesus,
the
please
super,
no.
or are we just
Oh,
going to get
please
like a
no.
base set of them? I feel like they're going to make us go get them.
I know
But
because you have to give us reasons to keep playing your game. So obviously we have to grind and look for the fragments and all that other jazz and aspects. But
Yeah.
please, just I can't do another set of Born from Darkness quests every week. Like that quest line was a nightmare. It was not fun at all. It was a chore. It really was.
Yeah. But moving on, let's talk about taking it down a notch. They want to talk about non-super abilities for a moment. In the May 27th TWAB, Kevin shared a foundational pillar for the role that they wanted abilities to play in PvP combat. Sandbox, as a quick refresher, this is where they want it to be. Weapons are the primary way players engage with combat. Non-super abilities accentuate or augment the combat, but should rarely solve an encounter by themselves. Abilities have a clear strength, weakness, and counterplay. Build crafting is rewarded within the moment-to-moment combat loop of Destiny. They're not there yet. In general, the ability uptime in the Crucible is too high, and their current potency is difficult to understand where an opponent will be getting regain ability from and after using it. Some of that uptime comes from passive cooldowns, but many of their outliers also comes from elements of the build crafting system that have previously been unified in an ability energy returning between PvE and PvP. With the 30th anniversary, they've taken a pass at a significant number of these elements across subclass perks, armor mods, exotic armor pieces, and they have tuned PvP energy regeneration separately from their base PvE values, which they are not changing. Fantastic. Per our pillars, they want the build crafting to be rewarding, but in its current state, the combinatorial nature of these perks and items leads to an unsustainable ability energy economy that diminishes weapon play in PvP. For this tuning pass, they focus primarily on items that feed into self-perpetuating loops of ability energy gains. Here's a brief list of the affected items. The subclass neutral game perks. These perks have had their ability energy regeneration reduced by roughly 50% in PvP. We targeted perks that can either activate out of combat with a single button press, or those that were returning amounts of ability energy that were significantly out of band. So the Whisper of Shards, Stasis Fragment, the Arc Web, Stormcaller Warlock, the Rising Storm, Stormcaller Warlock, the Ionic Traces, Stormcaller Warlock, the
Wow.
Electrostatic Surge, Stormcaller Warlock.
Pistachio is not going to be happy. Jesus.
If you're using a Stormcaller Warlock in PvP, you don't get energy anymore.
Oh my god.
Aftershocks from the Striker Titan. Inertia Override from the Striker Titan. Benevolent Dawn, Dawnblade Warlock. Practice Makes Perfect, Gunslinger Hunter. Dark Matter, Voidwalker Warlock. So it's just that it's not that they're not going to get any. It's just that their energy regeneration has been reduced by 50%, and that's just probably because of how quickly they're getting their abilities back. And you see a lot of the Warlocks there because they have the low tier ones. So that
I swear initial override only lasts like 5 seconds, man. I barely get anything out of initial override.
Well, you'll still get some, but 50% less.
That is trash.
Subclass in super perks. These perks scale down energy returns as you get kills in your super. Example, the first kill while in a super returns more super energy than the third kill. These perks often resulted in supers being able to roam the map for much longer than healthy for the game, and that means that a victim can frequently die to an active super, respawn on the other side of the map, and get killed by the same super again. Wow, I swear I was just saying that.
You were just saying
crazy.
That, yeah.
They've rescaled this energy refund decay more aggressively in PvP so that the minimum energy refund is reached roughly twice as quickly. No changes has been made in the PvE. So the Everlasting Fire on the Dawnblade Warlock and Trample on the Striker Titan are the main ones affected there.
Yeah, I'll take that on the chin. That's fine. That's fair. That's absolutely fair.
Yeah. Exotic Armor. Each exotic blow had a custom tuning pass focused on their ability of energy return for PvP. The Frosties. No longer stacks multiplicatively in PvP with other regeneration buffs. Is now in a...
Clap it up for our man real quick. You know what? Let's clap it up for him because he's handling this really well. Let's clap it up for him. Jesus.
Thank you. Is now an additive scaler, so there's no changes in PvP. So it no longer stacks with other regeneration buffs in PvP for the Frosties. That's fine. Heart of Innermost Light. The ability regeneration scaler is reduced by 50% in PvP. Reworked so that the activating multiple abilities will now reliably result in multiple empowered stacks. The stacking behavior was previously a bug. This seemed like a good opportunity to promote this to a feature. Alright. Controverse Hold. During the duration of the grenade regeneration buff is no longer random between 1 and 4 seconds, and it is now a fixed duration of 1.75 seconds. Reduced grenade energy regeneration scalar by 50% in PvP. The previous average duration due to waiting was 1.71 seconds, and with a 1 second duration being the most common, this should improve the exotic's consistency across the game with a lower return in PvP. I barely ever see the Controverse holds anyway, so...
Yeah, seriously. I didn't even remember those existed.
The Doomfang Pauldrons. Reduced super energy gain on activation when an opposing player is killed by a void melee. No change in PvE. And with
okay, all right.
When an opposing player is killed by a void melee by 50%. Sorry, not completely. It just reduced by 50%.
Okay, that's fine. As long as you don't like completely just wreck Doomfang, because I'm about to play Void. Like, what the hell?
Yes, exactly. Those are what you use for the Destructo discs. Come on.
Exactly.
The Shinobu's Vow. Reduced grenade energy gain on hits versus players by 66%. No change in PvE. Yeah, I mean, you throw those things, hit somebody, you get your arc grenade back immediately. So it was that's how you just got spammed in Crucible with those grenades. So
it's a lot of good changes so far. A lot of fair changes. I don't want to say good. I'll just say fair.
Yeah, as like I play all three, but mainly the Hunter, and it's just like it has to happen. I'm sorry, it has to happen. The Crown of Tempests. The grenade, melee, and super energy regeneration scalar buff duration reduced from 7 seconds to 4 seconds. No change in PvE. And the Stag. Reduced class ability energy refund on shield break by 50% in PvP. No change in PvE.
Yay! I just want the Stag to get nerfed because I just don't like seeing it anymore.
That's all you saw in Crucible or in Trials for a while.
In Trials, Jesus, I just want to see it go away. I'm sorry, Pistachio. I love you, but I hate that exotic.
Yeah. Armor mods. In general, they've reduced energy returns from these mods by roughly 50% in PvP, depending on the number of copies that you have slotted. So melee kickstart, grenade kickstart, utility kickstart, perpetuation, bolstering detonation, focusing strike, bomber, outreach, dynamo, distribution, momentum transfer, and impact induction. This is a big fundamental shift for us, and they expect to do a lot of tuning as time goes on. So as always, they'll be on the lookout for how things feel across the game, and they will continue to adjust accordingly. Now they're going to throw it back to Eric on some spicy details on more ability tuning that you can expect in the 30th anniversary. In case you haven't caught on yet, the list of ability changes that they're making the 30th anniversary is massive. Yeah, we can tell.
Yeah,
They've
no
touched
kidding.
they've touched on nearly every ability in the game in some way or another, and they will not go over. Well, they won't go over the full patch notes because it's mind-numbingly long. Let's take a look at some of the more proactive balance changes. Stasis Crystals. Stasis Crystals do a lot on top of freezing players when they are created. They block the line of sight, block movement, and act as an explosive barrel. It's all a bit too much in PvP. With this release, Stasis Crystals will now slow players instead of freezing them, and they'll do much less damage when they detonate.
Oh yeah, let's get it.
As far as PvE is concerned, Stasis Crystals will still continue to freeze combatants, but they've increased the Stasis Crystal detonation damage by in PvE combatants. Looking at the numbers, it was almost better to shoot directly at a combatant instead of the crystal near the combatant. This should change and help the crystals better live out their explosive barrel dreams. I love it. Less in PvP, more in PvE.
Yeah.
There's nothing nothing but love there.
I like that change a lot.
More on Stasis Crystals. While forming, Stasis Crystals are now slow nearby players instead of freezing them. They just mentioned that. Increased slow/freeze radius while forming from 1.75 meters to 2.6 meters.
Jesus,
They reduced the crystal detonation damage versus players by 55%. So there it is. Increased the detonation against PvE combatants by 60%. Sweet.
Wow.
And increased the radius from 6 to 8 meters on detonation. So,
well, the hunters can shadow dive in PvE really well. You got
yeah,
that.
and it might not kill you now still in PvP. It might still have to hit you with a punch or something after a quick shot or something.
As long as it don't freeze me, it gives me an opportunity to get the hell away from it.
Moving on, they're breaking it down into classes here, so we're just going to start off with Hunter, the Dodge. Oh boy. In order to meet our goal of less ability spam in Crucible, they're reducing how often Hunters can dodge. Gambler's Dodge is getting hit the hardest because it can completely circumvent melee ability cooldown times, and it can also change the Hunter's silhouette in PvP, making it very powerful. In addition, Hunter dodges will no longer break projectile tracking, means it's less of a get-out-of-jail-free card when a tracking rocket or a slow-moving projectile is flying towards you.
I agree.
I mean, no other class has that, so I mean, it was an unfair advantage. So I give them that. Like,
okay, as long as you're willing to accept that.
It was an unfair advantage, so that's fair.
Oh, you mask of backers people, I feel your rage.
So they no longer break projectile tracking. A Marksman Dodge tier 10 mobility cooldown has increased from 11 seconds to 14 seconds. The base cooldown is unchanged at 29. And the Gambler's Dodge 10 mobility cooldown increased from 11 to 18 seconds.
Yeesh.
And the base cooldown duration from 29 to 38. So that's a bit of a tough one, but I can understand it because, like they said, it completely breaks the melee ability thing. So as long as I dodge near you or relatively in the vicinity of the player, I get my melee back, and that can, depending on what it is, be devastating.
Well, now I feel like Hunters are gonna move a lot less. From what it sounds, I don't know, from just what it sounds like to me with these nerfs, like it just sounds like they're slowing the pace of the game down, honestly, because now it's starting to feel like Halo in a way, which I'm dying to play, where it's just like, okay, we're gonna stand up and shoot each other, no more flying around the map, and that's kind of how I feel like we're going kind of back to year one of Destiny 2, where it was like, okay, everyone's just squaring up with Mida tools and no one's really doing much of anything, going anywhere.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I feel like this is going. They're just slowing down the pace of the game.
It seems like that they're trying to focus it more on gunplay, right? So
yeah.
But here it is, Revenant. You guessed it, the Stasis Crystal changes detailed earlier means that the Hunter Revenant Shatter Dive will now almost never kill a full health Guardian. Shatter Dive may still kill if the Hunter is using a Whisper of Fissures, Touch of Winter, and the target is in the very center of all 6 crystals, but that has been an incredibly rare occurrence in their playtest. So they can all agree that Shatter Dive was too powerful. Yeah, I know. Well, for me, it was hit and miss. My Shadow Dive never killed freaking anybody, but then you did tell me to put on the Touch of Winter, and so it tightened up the formation instead of spreading it. And after I did that, I was murdering people.
You were
getting it. So.
You were kind of getting people good. Like, I mean, I won't say that you did it at a very high frequency or anything like that, but you did clutch up some trials wins for us. So
So, what they're going to do here is it's not all rain clouds and puddles for the Shadow Dive hunters. They increase in stasis crystal damage versus PvE, make Shadow Dive a great choice in PvE. On top of that, they're increasing Shadow Dive against frozen combatants by 100%. So have fun melting monsters. So Shadow Dive is much less lethal versus players due to the stasis crystal changes, much more lethal in combatants due to the stasis crystal changes, and their Shadow Dive versus PvE combatants by 100%. So that's cool. They're also changing the Grim Harvest aspect to fragment slots from 2 to 3. Sweet, because I use that all the time. So that's
you get a lucky slot. There
yeah.
You go. More mods.
That. I have a pretty good stasis build with the Aegir Scepter for my hunter, so that I'm actually kind of intrigued about that. Yeah. So for PvE, so I like that. Top Tree Arc Strider. This change is to the combination below melee was made possible by their variable ability cooldown system. Previously, the Top Tree Arc Strider were basically required to use Gambler's Dodge with this tree, and they hope that this change will make the ability more viable when you're using Marksman's Dodge. They reduced the base cooldown duration from 96 seconds to 15 seconds. Sweet. Yeah, I didn't use this with anything other than the Gambler's Dodge because there's no point. So, we'll see what happens with that. Bottom Tree Night Stalker. The Vanish and Smoke melee has low damage output but high utility. Their data shows that this subclass tree is struggling in PvP, so they've decided to increase how often Pathfinder hunters can go invisible. It reduced the base cooldown from 96 seconds to 75 seconds. So, more invisible hunters. I mean, I don't see them too much anyways in PvP, so, I mean, I'm not too worried about that.
Literally, only my brother does it. Shout out to you, Immortal. Only he will spam going invisible. He loves going invisible.
Just have to send him this one line of the TWAB. Best TWAB ever.
Yeah, like, he's going to be over the moon for this buff. Like, holy.
We move to Titans.
Oh, my heart. I already read shoulder
charges.
Oh.
In an effort to put emphasis back on gunplay in the Crucible, they've decided to reduce the number of abilities that can one-shot full health Guardians. As such, Titan's 3 shoulder charge abilities are no longer one-shot abilities in PvP. Yes! Oh, Bungie!
Wait, but does that affect my Code of the Missile shoulder charge? Like, it's not a shoulder charge. It's a body slam.
I will tell you when we go down the list as we go through them all.
You're right.
To balance this out, they've made the shoulder charge happen. The shoulder charges quicker to activate, easier to hit with, and travel further.
Oh, I love that.
We've also increased their damage in PvE. Cool.
They're
still too powerful. In their experience, they're still too powerful in PvP in combination with short-range weapons and movement tools. I'm like, yeah, if you can hit me from much further away still and just pop me with the shotgun after. But no!
I wonder if, like, if I put Synthoceps on, like, will that mitigate me losing my one-shot ability? Because then if you guys are holding hands, like, I should still get my one-shot. So we'll see.
They say here they wanted to curb the shoulder charges potency now that they've tuned down shotguns as their current counter, and they'll be monitoring the data and feedback. So all shoulder charges, no longer one-shots players. Sprinting activation time reduced from 1.5 seconds to 1.25 seconds.
Nice.
Increase the range from 5.5 meters to 6.8 meters.
I'm going to be flying.
Bro. Targeting cone with... I'm going to be flying. Targeting cone width increased by 10%. And the damage in PvE by 25%.
I just Thunder Crash. I just need Thunder Crash in PvE, so that's fine.
The Seismic Strike Arc Shoulder Charge reduced AoE damage from 90 to 40. Now blinds enemies in the area on hit. Okay.
I don't want that.
Increased base cooldown from 82 seconds to 90 seconds.
Well then, I guess I'm not using military.
Shield Bash. Void Shoulder Charge. Reduced AoE damage from 90 to 40. Increased base cooldown from 82 seconds to 90 seconds.
Okay.
Hammer Strike.
No. Okay.
Reduced direct impact damage from 170 to 120. And increased the base cooldown from 82 to 90 as well.
Okay, so hold on one second. So Shield Bash can't like just you can't give it like a silence ability at all.
No.
I mean, out of all of them, Seismic Strike is the best one.
I mean, if the arc one can blind, I don't see why the shield one couldn't necessarily do like
Even if the
suppress.
disable is like for like 2 seconds, like a 2 second suppress, like I can live with that.
Yeah, but no. Barricade. Even with the rally barricade changes they've made in the Season of the Lost, using this ability during a firefight is still a risky proposition, and they've spaced out the cooldowns of the two barricades to make the choice slightly more interesting. The Towering Barricade has increased the base cooldown duration from 37 seconds to 40 seconds. Not too much of a change, to be honest.
Not really, yeah.
And the Rally Barricade, they reduced the base cooldown duration from 37 to 32. So, a little bit better.
I'm still using Towering Barricade. Rally Barricade, even with the buffs, it's still not worth using, especially in Trials. Towering Barricade is just too good.
Okay. The Behemoth. They agree with the
Nobody
general
cares
community
about that
feedback
anymore.
that it could use some love in PvE, and they're hoping that these changes to Diamond Lance makes this aspect a top-tier PvE pick. Shiver Strike is getting a big damage buff during the Glacial Quake Super. The Whisper of Change Fragments buff here is also very spicy and should help the Behemoth's survivability in pinnacle PvE activities. Whisper of Change can be used by all Stasis subclasses, but making crystals is kind of the Behemoth's thing, so we're listing it here. Diamond Lance increased fragment slots from 1 to 3. Wow. Wow. That's a little something. Okay. Now spawns a Diamond Lance upon killing a PvE combatant with a stasis weapon, killing 3 players with a stasis weapon in a single life, killing an enemy with a stasis ability, or shattering an enemy. So lots of ways to make the Diamond Lance now. Okay.
So Aegis Scepter is going to be meta in PvE with the Titan.
Yeah. We make it all those diamonds.
Yeah,
all those
especially
lances.
with Headstone. If that combos with Headstone, that's going to be really good on certain weapons.
Mm-hmm. Shiver Strike increased Shiver Strike damage while in Glacial Quake by 50%. And the Whisper of Change increased damage resistance versus PvE combatants from 25% to 40%. Pretty good. Bottom Tree Striker. So wait, Whisper of Change, I believe they said it's on all Stasis subclasses. So like that's Whisper of Change that's not just for Titan. That's for Hunters, Warlocks, and Titans. They just posted it here because they felt like it. Bottom Tree Striker. This class is absolutely dominating PvP this season, so much that they're tuning it down a notch. The changes they've made to the Fist of Havoc in this Season of the Lost have helped the top tree as intended, but they also turned bottom tree into a monster. On top of that, Stasis nerfs and other changes they've made over the past few releases created a power vacuum that a Striker bot filled with extreme prejudice, and they hope that the changes put Striker bot back into the pack instead of towering high above everyone else. Striker bot.
That is so funny.
Knockout. Melee lunge range and melee damage bonus now deactivate after a melee kill. Trample.
Okay, that's fair.
Super energy gain from Fist of Havoc. Light attack now decays to a minimum amount over 3 PvP kills, down from 7.
Okay, I can live with that.
Frontal Assault melee increased based cooldown from 82 seconds to 106 seconds.
That really hurts, okay?
That's a chunky one there. Fist of Havoc. Heavy slam radius reduced from 8 to 6 meters. Bottom tree only.
Ooh, that super sucks though. Why would you do that?
Well, that's the one that people keep chaining around everywhere.
Yeah, I dig it, but like, dang, yo, really? You have to get 2 meters less? Like, that's crazy, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not hitting anything with the slam down now. I'm not hitting nothing, but still, like, I don't know. I guess it gives it its own identity because you're supposed to use the shoulder charge, the light attack portion of it anyways, because the top tree Fist of Havoc is more about the slam. So yeah, I guess to create its own identity and separate both subclass into their own super category. Then you're doing a good job.
Mm-hmm. Moving on, we're now going to the Warlocks. Also, everyone, you've been with us for a while. This has been a long one. We're almost at the 55-minute mark here. We're
Yeah,
almost done.
seriously.
We're getting near the end. It's a
I feel
long
like we need to
TWAB,
like separate this in
but
2 parts or something.
it's going to be one long part, but I just want everyone to take a quick water break, take a quick sip, hydrate yourselves. Because this was a long one.
He did all the talking.
Yeah. Warlock. Uncharged melee. Warlocks have been losing slap fights for too long. Yes, up until now, Warlocks haven't been able to melee back-to-back as quickly as Titans or Hunters. No more! With the 30th anniversary, Warlocks will be able to melee just as quick as Titans and Hunters. They're also removing the 1 meter range extension Warlocks received to compensate. They still like the idea of classes.
That's fair.
Yeah, having unique qualities to their melee is interesting, but they wanted to do it in a way that won't cause one class to consistently lose slap fights. That's the funniest thing. Just call it a slap fight. You start punching someone. You punch me? Hey! I'll punch you!
Warlock can't slap box, man. I'm telling you, they wouldn't survive in the hood.
Apparently they can now. They can slap just as quick. So they reduced the melee range from 5.5 meters to 4.5, now matches the Hunters and the Titans, and they reduced suppression time after each melee. It can now melee back-to-back at the same speed. Middle Tree Void Walker. In an effort to do away with one-shot abilities that are frustrating to be hit by, Handheld Supernova is also getting the shoulder charge treatment. Yes, that's right. The Handheld Supernova will no longer one-shot in PvP. Oh, thank you. So tired of it.
I was just complaining about that
So
yesterday.
tired of it. Yes. To compensate, it now travels further and pushes enemies back. They also increase the damage of the Handheld Supernova and Nova Work versus champion and boss combatants, and increase their damage in the Season of the Lost, but they felt like it could use even more juice. So, in Handheld Supernova, now reduced damage versus players, now deals 150 damage max. Increased damage versus champions and bosses by 30%. Increased projectile range from 12 to 14 meters. Now pushes targets away from the Warlock on detonation. Bop my bosses off the map. Hey, yo, Atheon, I just want to see you for a minute. The Nova Warp increased damage versus champions and bosses by 30%. That's for the Nova Warp super itself as well. Okay. Shadebinder. They feel the Shadebinder is in a pretty good place with a couple of exceptions. 1. Winter's Wrath is still the best super for shutting down other supers, and it's not even close. Winter's Wrath must now freeze and shatter other supers twice to kill them. As a general rule, roaming supers shouldn't be able to one-shot other supers. 2. The Penumbral Blast melee is too difficult to land against PvE combatants. When we made the ability harder to land in PvP, it had a negative effect on the PvE experience. So they've increased the proximity detonation radius against PvE combatants to make it easier to land. All 3 Stasis Grenades will now have different cooldown times, so they made a change to the Bleak Watcher to avoid the situation where it was always best to use the grenade with the shortest cooldown time. This resulted in an overall cooldown increase for the Bleak Watcher, which fits in an incredibly high power output. Yes, because you gave us a cannon, an ice cannon that shot and froze people, while I could shoot them from another angle.
Seriously.
It was quite the predicament. So Winter's Wrath, reduced shatter pulse damage versus super enemies, must now generally freeze and shatter all supers twice to eliminate. Penumbral Blast, increased proximity detonation radius versus PvE combatants by 100%. Bleak Watcher.
Nobody cares.
While the Bleak Watch ability is equipped, all Stasis Grenades charge at the Glacier Grenade rate. So you won't get it back any faster now by being a little cheeky. That's all for now, folks. They said they covered the big stuff. There's a bunch of other small changes coming in the 30th anniversary, but they will cover everything else in the official patch notes. As you can see, the team has been hard at work in adjusting the sandbox globally. There's been a lot of changes, yes. They hope that the pictures here have been painted and reinforces in the statements made. Again, the sandbox is going to continue to evolve alongside the game. As we hit year 5 and beyond, this statement will become even more true and exciting as the coming changes with the Subclass 3.0 experience. Stay tuned for the patch notes when the 30th anniversary goes live on December 7th. So, a few things that they want to go over here real quick. They still have in-game live support. DPS needs to know information for in-game bugs, reports, and all that good stuff. They would like to announce Destiny 2 is leaving Game Pass. If anyone is still using the free-to-play version, essentially, from Game Pass, you will no longer have access to it on console and cloud gaming only. For the PC, it is staying, but all expansions, so for Destiny 2 and the Destiny 2 game itself, will be leaving. So I initially thought it was just Beyond Light, but it's not just Beyond Light, it's Destiny 2 and all the expansions. So if you are completely free to play through Game Pass, I'm so sorry.
You're about to stop playing this game.
Yeah, unless you feel like purchasing everything which is a very daunting task. I can very well understand. So once Destiny 2 leaves Game Pass, players that don't own any of the expansions of the Xbox platform will lose access to campaign missions, expansion-specific activities such as raids, dungeons, hunts, exo challenges, nightfall strikes, and access to Trials of Osiris. The Stasis subclass, which is Beyond Light specific. The middle tree supers for each subclass. Those came with Forsaken. The 10% off perk for silver purchases and other game add-ons. So that was just a bonus for Game Pass users. We got 10% off silver.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, they say other game add-ons, and I don't know about that. All the DLCs and everything that I've purchased, I've paid full price for. So I don't know what they're talking about. The 10% off silver, absolutely. I did see that. So.
The only DLC I do not own is just Beyond Light at this point. So
yeah. They do want to mention here, items such as exotics already acquired will still be available for players who earn them. Previously purchased season passes will remain active. Players who wish to continue playing Destiny 2 on Xbox should look for the Destiny 2 expansion discounts that'll be available soon. As a reminder,
if your discounts are like $15, I'm not trying to hear it.
Yeah, we'll see how big the discounts are, right? So, I mean, with it just leaving, Forsaken becoming free to play, I feel like you could make a good offer for it, maybe like 50% offer or something. I don't know. Give it like a nice solid one. It's already been out for a year. It's been free for a year for everyone. Maybe a little bit of show good faith there. Be like 50%. Come back to us, or continue playing with us because we already know you're gonna buy Witch Queen again anyways, and the 30th anniversary potentially if you got the kind of money.
We don't know about all that, but we'll see.
You know what I mean? So. I do like that if you've already got the exotics, they won't become locked for you. So that's nice to hear. They said Xbox blocked players. Since crossplay launched earlier this season, they've seen Xbox players report that they've seen a lot of blocked players on the roster screen when they haven't blocked anybody. To help with the investigation, please go to your account on Xbox.com. Go to your profile. Under the privacy, you can set communications outside of Xbox Live with voice and text to everyone. Set others can communicate with voice, text, or invites to everyone. Click Xbox Series X/S, Xbox One, and Windows 10 devices online safety toward the top, and set you can play with people outside of Xbox Live to allow. On the console, you'll want to head over to your settings in the general section, go to the online safety and family part, hit the privacy and online safety settings, go to Xbox privacy, view details and customize, communications and multiplayer. There, you can join cross-network play to allow, and you can set communicate outside of Xbox with voice and text to everyone. Then you will likely need to clear your console cache. If you're still having issues, go to the threads and post in the known issues article. Moving on from there, they have the movies of the week, which are always fantastic. We tell you every week to always go take a look. We have the artists of the week, which are always fantastic every week. That is a really cool rendition of Eris Morn, one of the cooler ones I've ever seen. So, and that is it. They said, next week is Thanksgiving, so it'll be a short TWAB, and pretty much after that, it'll be a week and a bit from the 30th anniversary. So, all right, that does it. This was a long one. Is there anything you'd like to touch upon here before we shut it down?
Honestly, only because this has gone on so long, I could probably go on a tirade of all sorts about Beyond Light going away from Game Pass and whatnot, but I'll save that for another day. I like the changes that they're going with so far. Hopefully, it's gonna rein some supers in and the abilities in, and we get some balanced things happening in Destiny, because Jesus knows I'm sick and tired of the unbalancedness of the game.
Yeah. So hopefully this will shake things up a bit. And I do like that it's happening with the 30th anniversary as opposed to the Witch Queen, since we still have about 3 months of time in between.
Yeah, so I'll probably, again, because I'm still up in the air about this whole entire DLC situation, but I might dabble a little bit just to get my, for our TWAB formats here, I can have an educated response to how the changes feel. And that's probably, and after 30th anniversary, once I play a little bit of the PvP within it, and again, I'm not delving in playing hours upon hours. I'm not buying the 30th anniversary, but we'll see what it looks like, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, stay tuned, guys. Check out. We'll upload it. I'm gonna say within the next week. We'll try to get it done, but we'll go over our thoughts and opinions on the Destiny as a whole leaving Game Pass after being there for a year. We have someone that here plays through the Game Pass with the free to play, and then myself, I buy it regardless. So we have the completely opposite opinions on it in a sense. So like,
it's definitely
from
an
where we're
argument
coming
worth
from.
having.
So it'll be a good conversation. Should definitely take a look for that one. But that should do it for now, guys. This has been a long one, so I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be absolutely wonderful to hit that like button, and do consider subscribing to the channel to help us grow as we continue to move into the future. I am G3 Hydration.
G3 Tyrant.
Have yourselves an absolutely wonderful day.
Peace.